Are you ever speaking, doing health talks, and you are sharing your health message at stages or events, and sometimes you wonder, or maybe you're creating content, you're pouring out your heart, your soul, but at the end of the day, people aren't buying and you're wondering why? Chances are you're selling the wrong thing. A lot of times when I'm working with health educators, it's really one of the things that we work with is to get very clear on what things to say and what things not to say. And if you do not say these things, then your clients are going to stay sick and your health business is going to be stuck. So if you want to be able to really empower people to move forward, we have to know, what do high-paying health clients actually buy and why do they buy? Because one of the biggest reasons, like I was consulting with someone this week, and one of the questions like, okay, well, I want to create a health mentorship program, but how many weeks do I need to give them? And what does that coaching look like? How many sessions? And a lot of times when we go through this process, we think if we want to create an online course, then we think, well, it's like, how many hours in recording do I need to give to be able to charge $500? That's a wrong question. You don't need to ask that. And when coaching, a lot of times we're thinking, all right, how many one-on-one sessions do I need to sell in order for people to want to pay me $3,000? And that's also the wrong questions. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they immediately want to start selling the pieces. They want to sell the pieces of the program, like how many hours it is, how many pages in your workbook, or the number of coaching sessions, and they go through all of these little pieces of it. But the reality is, people are not paying for the pieces in your program. When high-paying clients buy, they're paying for the payoff. That's what they really care about. They want to know, what is your program going to do for them? Is it going to help them stabilize their energy, help them to wake up without grogginess? Is it going to help them to no longer be bloated so they can enjoy food again, instead of feeling like they're doubled over in pain every time that they make a meal and having to depend on Tums and Pepto-Bismol just to get through the day, every day at every meal, where they were miserable doing it. They're going to be able to save time because they're learning the productivity, the healthy, productive tips that your program goes through that helps them to get more done than they ever thought possible, while feeding their body the nutrition and the fuel that it requires. So we want to be very clear on what is the payoff that people are getting. And another thing that causes a lot of people to be stuck in selling is that when focusing a lot on the features of their product, and the features is not something that we want to be emphasizing, because people don't buy features. What is a feature? A feature is like how much time that you have, how many workbooks, it's how many hours you have. Like when you hear that you have to go through like this 9-hour course, that sounds overwhelming, to be honest. And even though, so what you want to emphasize is, instead of like how many hours in the program, you're emphasizing you get to go at your own speed. They're on-demand coaching that you can fit in the pockets of your time, so that when you're ready, this is then you're able to make progress at your own pace. Those are the types of payoffs, or the language that makes it a lot easier and more enjoyable to actually want to be a part of your program. Because sometimes we start talking about our process, and we'll say like, well, we've got these 90 affirmations that we have you say that each morning, and we've got these prayer journals that you're going to write. You're going to journal every day to help you to get clear on your health goals and where you're going. And they think that these things are actually attractive for the offer. They're not. They're very overwhelming for a lot of people. And so we don't want to focus on all of these changes that need to be made. And instead of focusing on the features, you want to emphasize their future. Sell their future, not the features. And what do I mean by their future? You want to, something that I like to call future painting. Future painting. One of the most powerful tools of persuasion is a paintbrush. And this is a paintbrush that you're writing on the canvas of their mind. You want to be able to cast the vision of what their future will look like. Their body, their health, their vitality, their energy, their productivity, the time with their grandchildren. You want to paint the future so vivid, so bright, so enjoyable for them that they desire to live there. Because here's the reality. A lot of people are in a place where they've given up hope. They've tried this, like Weight Watchers, they tried P90X, they tried so many different ways to lose weight, Insanity, and all these companies or these cleanses and programs and diets, and they're like at their very ends, and they're struggling, and they're just like, I don't even know if anything's gonna work anymore. We just had our client, Regine, who was able to get another $3,000 client. And one of the persons, what they said is, I've tried so many things, and she felt like she was at the end of her rope. But when she started watching the videos of our clients and started to see that she knows what she's talking about, and she got hope again. There's a renewal of hope that makes her desire to work with her. And that's really what you want to do. I heard John Maxwell. He said, as leaders, we are hope dealers. How many of you want to be dealers of hope? Type hope in the chat below, because you're giving hope to the hopeless. You're helping someone who gave up hope that they actually can change their body or to be able to be healthy or defy the diagnosis. Because when you're focusing on all the features of your program, and when you're emphasizing, oh, we're gonna provide you a workbook, it's 90 pages, and you can go through, and in each page has 15 steps. Like, what does workbook sound like to people? Sounds like work, exactly. And that's exhausting. They're already tired. Their adrenals are fatigued. They're losing sleep at night because of the pain, and they can't really fall asleep, whatever it is. And you piling more work on an already tired and burdened body, that is not something that's a selling statement. That's what I call a repelling statement. Because every word we say, is either selling someone closer to saying yes to your offer, or it's repelling someone away from saying no to your offer. How many of you want every word to be educating someone closer to saying, yes, I want to work with you? Type, can I get a word in the chat below? Because this is what happens when we start to understand how to paint a future that is so hopeful, so bright, so vivid and compelling. Because an ultimate persuasion tip is TIP. It stands for turn it into a picture. If you can picture with vivid, it could even be metaphors, but vivid language about how the brain fog will clear up, and they're able to make decisions so much faster. That shows up in their business, in their family, in their spiritual walk with God. When you don't have that fogginess, the heaviness, that just your memory's all hazy and you're not able to make clear decisions. If you want that certainty that comes by taking care of your body and doing the right things at the right time, that's when people want to move forward. So understanding what people are paying for is very different. For premium buyers buy differently than discount buyers who are always looking for a sale or a deal or trying to save the most money and who are trying to get everything for free. They value different things. Marketing to the affluent is going to be a different approach than selling to people who are always looking for the cheapest deal. People who are affluent or who are willing to pay thousands of dollars for health advice, these people are looking to eliminate hassle. They're paying for speed. They have more financial resources and less time resources. They're time poor and money rich. So you want to emphasize the speed. It's not so much of, I'm pouring in, there's everything that I know about inflammation in this coaching program. In this time period, I'm going to tell you everything I know about diabetes. That is not the goal. Your goal is where much of the value is not in what you put into your program, it's what you take out. And what I mean by that is you're letting them know that out of the decades, like I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've recognized many patterns of working with a variety of different people or learning from some of the best in the minds as it relates to diabetes. And I've removed the 95% of stuff that doesn't work, and I'm only putting in the 5% that helps diabetics to feel better, healthier, lose weight, and to have lasting results. So I'm actually only giving you the bare minimum that you need to be able to succeed, in the sense that my goal is to see what is the fastest path to help your recovery. My job of what I get to do for you as a coach is not just tell you what to do, but also help you to identify what not to do right now. Because how many of you would agree that you can have all the right steps, and if you do it in the wrong order, you're not going to get the same results? So it matters when you do it. For example, if you have a telephone, and you could literally say this when you are presenting, these are some visuals. If you have a telephone number, you can have all the right numbers, but you change the order, you're trying to call New York and you end up somewhere in Africa, right? Because you had all the right steps, but you didn't put them in the right sequence, because the sequence matters. As 1 Corinthians 14:40, it says, let all things be done decently and in order. So by you being able to illustrate to your audience that you're giving them the right sequence, it's a system. So instead of selling products, where another question that was asked to me on our challenge is like, well, how do I compete with all these other products out there? People are selling these like parasite cleanses, these pharmaceuticals, and they're cheap and they don't cost that much money. But why would someone pay for my product when they could just go to the pharmaceutical, get a prescription, and get it done? Well, the reason is because you don't want to be in a product business. You're not emphasizing, here is a product that you're selling. You're emphasizing in your language, you want to emphasize a system. Here's a complete step-by-step system that you have. And you might have a product, maybe you have a parasite cleanse, maybe you have a particular supplement or a detox regimen, but that's not what you're selling. You're selling a complete system. And the way that I've often done this in our superfood nutrition system is that when people want to pick and choose and say, well, can I just buy one product in there? I say, sure you can. But it's kind of like an engine, you know? Can an engine run if it's missing the alternator? Yeah, technically. But eventually, as you keep going, the battery's going to die, and it doesn't work as well if it's missing different parts of the engine, right? So I usually recommend that we get the complete system, because each one is synergistically designed to work better together. And when you go from selling a product to selling a system, this is a very unique differentiator from you and the marketplace, because a system implies a step-by-step process to get a repeatable result. System implies a certainty. System implies a thoughtfulness, a proven process. And that's really what you want to emphasize when you're communicating to people. And then they feel like, wow, I can't afford not to get this system, because this is a system that could work, versus all these other things I've tried in the past. They were missing pieces, or they had some right pieces, but they were in the wrong order. And that's why people don't get the right support. So whatever it is, we want to learn to emphasize different things. And you know, most people, when they are communicating, when they're sharing their health message and they want their audience to become paying clients, they sometimes, if we know what we're doing, some health educators will share about the ROI. You know, as entrepreneurs, we all know about the ROI. We hear about this quite often, right? What does ROI stand for? Return on what? Return on investments, right? You're not just spending money on your health, you are investing money in your health. And something that I often tell people is, I tell them that your health is not an expense. Your health is an investment, but your health becomes an expense when you fail to invest in it. So what you want to express to people, one of the things you always want to address whenever you're in a selling environment, selling health, is you want to shift the perspective of people feeling like, oh, I can't afford that, or that's too expensive. You want to help them to change the language from thinking that you and your program is an expense, and shift them to help them to see that this is one of the best investments they can make in their life. And when you start using invest language, instead of you're saying like, okay, you can buy today for $3,000, you could say, for a small investment of $3,000, we can get started today so you can start having the best health of your life. Whatever that is, it's a language, and there's several ways you can show that, that there's an investment. And one is that when we show the return on investment, that's the payoff, that's the pleasure, that's the things that people want to have. But hardly no one is talking, while most people know about ROI, almost no one is talking about COI. And COI is far more powerful than even the ROI, the return on investment. And what is the COI? I'll tell you. It's the cost of inaction. Instead of one of the reasons why so many health educators struggle to land high-paying clients is because when the client says, "What's the cost? How much does it cost?" Then you just drop, "Oh, it's $3,000," or you say it a bit too early. But really, what I've learned is that the price is irrelevant until they understand the value first. If all they see is the cost, and when the cost is 10 times more than the value in their minds, then they're not going to buy. People buy when the cost is this much and the value is 10 times more than the cost. So until you're able to increase the perceived value for who you're speaking to, you don't want to express the cost. And one way that you could address this is if you're on a consultation with someone, for example, and they're in the beginning of the call and they're just like, "All right, how much does it cost? I just want to know the price." I would share that it depends, because how could I make a prescription or a recommendation if I haven't even gone through the process of asking your situation? It depends on what you get, and I don't know what I would recommend until we have a conversation to discuss. Like, what kind of, if you were to go to a doctor and the doctor didn't even ask you any questions or speak to you, and just you walked in and immediately started writing you a prescription for some drugs, then that would be considered malpractice, right? That's not an appropriate behavior. So what I recommend will be determined by the conversation we have. Does that make sense? You're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense." All right, so then the next question, and you're able to go through your consultation, because sometimes people want to jump the gun, but a lot of times too, if they're not able or willing to follow a process that you are walking them through in your sales cycle, then chances are when they become a paying client, even if they're willing to pay you plenty of money, if they're not able to follow a process before becoming a client, they're likely not going to follow your process after becoming a client. It's already a major red flag that they're not the right fit for you. Because what good is it them paying you money if they're not going to follow the process to get the payoff that they desire? So you are just as much, they are applying to work with you just as much as you're seeing if they're going to be a good fit for you, like they're seeing if you're a good fit for them. And when we can maintain that kind of posture, that kind of relationship, then each person's able to make an informed decision. Because like for us, like we charge a lot of money to work with us in helping health educators to monetize their knowledge online and create premium mentorship programs. And we know what we're doing. We have a process. And if someone's not able to follow that process beforehand, then we know they're not going to follow afterwards. And that's going to do harm for our reputation and our brands. I mean, we've had clients who've paid me and I asked them why. And they say, because I did research on you and I researched 3 other companies. One had a lawsuit, others had bad reviews, but I could find nothing but good experiences about you. Nothing but people saying good. And I say, praise God. But part of that is because we're very particular about who we choose to work with. We don't accept just anyone who's waving a card, because we know that we want to work with people who we believe has a highest chance of succeeding. And if they're not a good fit, then we're not going to accept people into our program. And this is what happens. So we're talking about the cost of inaction. So in other words, before you tell them how much it costs to work with you, tell them first, show them how much it's already costing them to say no. By starting with the cost of inaction, show them how much it's costing in the medical bills, in the lost opportunities, in the afternoon naps that they're losing time with their children, or productivity in their business or their profession, or show them that by what are all the inefficiencies, the weaknesses, the struggles, the challenges that people face that holds them back from really being able to thrive. And so an example of like when we're talking about the pieces and the payoff, I'll show you, this is what you don't want to do. In fact, when you see this, you don't want to say you're going to get 12 weeks of coaching calls. That's not why people buy. And usually when I ask people, what's your offer? They're like, well, I've got this 13-week coaching program. That is not your offer. The offer is the transformation that your client gets that they could not do before they join your program. What is the transformation? That is your offer. It's not all these little pieces. So instead, you could say there's 12 weeks to end your sugar cravings. You notice that it is a emphasis on what they're going to get from it. And what you don't want to do is say, we're going to provide comprehensive meal plans and recipes. Instead, you're emphasizing that you never wonder what to eat again. We've got that covered. We've already provided for you the best meals, the fastest, most nutrient-dense recipes that are going to heal your body, that you can eat your way to health. How does that sound? Who wants to eat their way to health, right? And instead of saying weekly group coaching sessions, you're saying weekly accountability so that you stay on track. Because that's what people are really looking for, is they want accountability, they want the guidance, because they know that all we like sheep, we go astray. And we turn to everyone our own way, but we need a shepherd to gently guide us back where we want to go. And it's the accountability that people are after. It's not just the coaching calls. And instead of saying you get access to my private Facebook group, you can share, like, you have 24/7 support so that when cravings hit, you have guidance, not just from our team, but even a community of people who are here to support you and to cheer you on, so that you're never doing it alone. And instead of saying you get the same supplement protocols and you get these tests and analysis that I do, instead you can emphasize how you will finally know what your body actually needs based on your body's metrics, so that you can know with absolute certainty what we're doing is working towards your better health. And you can see, like, doesn't that the right side, the green side, just feel very different? And as you do more of what's in the green, you'll be able to make more of the green. And people want to pay you for this program. So that's part of the process here. Is what you want to do is, when you are emphasizing to people, you want to not just emphasize the pieces, you want to show them the payoff. You don't just emphasize the process, you want to show them the problem that they're facing when they are, that the problems that you solve. Because at the end of the day, people don't buy programs, they buy solutions of problems. And if we are not solving their problem, then if they don't associate a problem that they currently have, like not knowing what to eat or taking so much time, or they think their health is so expensive, or a lot of these problems that people have, it keeps them stuck and it makes them feel hopeless and that they can't even move forward. So when you're emphasizing, like, you got to wake up at 5 a.m. and you got to do 100 push-ups, and we've got these comprehensive meal plans, that sounds really overwhelming. We've got the 90-day 90-page workbook, and there's 15 steps, and we're going, and you emphasize all this diet change and all these things. The more you talk about the process, the less people want to pay. But the more you talk about their problem that they're facing now, your bones don't work the way they used to, you feel exhausted by noon, and your memory is not working well, you're stopped fitting in your clothes, and you're showing the brain fog makes all the decisions and thinking a lot harder. You find your emotions are not in control, so that affects the relationships you have with people you care about. You end up saying things that you regret, or losing out on precious moments with your children. And when you think about it, you only have mostly like 18 summers to spend with your children, and to spend any moments lashing out or where your emotions are out of control. Who wants to afford, like, I can't afford to lose the precious moments that I had and memories that I could create with my family. So I want to balance my hormones. I want to be able to support my body's natural ability to heal itself. How many of you want to support your body's natural ability to heal itself? And that's the problems that we're solving. When you use these type of languages, that's when people feel seen and they feel heard. Because the reality is, we want to use the language that our clients actually speak. So how many of you want to learn to speak the language of your ideal client actually wants to buy? Type speak in the chat below if you want to speak in a way that people want to buy. And this is today, my burden of this video is I want to share these type of tweaks. Really, it's a lot of times it's the smallest tweaks that lead to the biggest peaks. It's not so much that there's these drastic changes. It's really these really simple solutions, these simple language patterns that are hidden in plain sight. And a lot of times it takes like a mentor to be able to reveal to you what are those little tweaks that you can change in your health talks, these little changes. You already have the knowledge, you already have the passion, you already have the insights, but knowing how to structure them in a way and put them in place in a way that's able to actually lead people to pay, this is what it's all about. In fact, we just heard a testimony on our, just before we went live. We're live here on Zoom, which, by the way, if you want to join, you can join us for these. Each week we go live on Zoom, and as I record these videos, but we heard a testimony from one of our clients in Skills Unlimited. She got her first speaking engagement. She's been showing up to these Zoom calls. She's been learning these lessons, the same one we're posting on YouTube, and she's been going through this process. And she was able to craft a signature speech. And the first time that she presented it before a live audience is over at this fire department. And over there, once she spoke to an audience of about 30 people, she's now got 2 people who are interested in joining her coaching program. And 2 people said yes, a 3rd person's interested, and there's likely going to be others from that event who will be interested too. Following the same principles that I'm teaching you today, she was just sharing like, yeah, I remember how you said this, and I started to implement this. I started to emphasize the payoff and the problems, and she's going through exactly following the advice that we do. And her first public speech, using a signature speech that we've helped her with, she's able to get some of her first clients in her coaching program, which is exciting, to go from working for an institution or another organization to being able to start a business where you're in control of your schedule, of your clients, of the amount of money that you're able to make, and to be able to provide for your family, to have a system that you can create assets that are income producing assets that are able to pay for you and create a financial fortress for your family. That's a really special place to be. And that's exactly why we put these together. And in fact, we have a challenge that's coming up. Once a month, we do host a high income health expert challenge, and where we help health educators that master their marketing so they can bring your message to the masses and monetize your knowledge online. If you would like to be a part of this monthly challenge for 5 days, you can ask me any questions you want, and we can get on during the VIP. You can get backstage pass and get your questions answered. Ask me anything about marketing, about selling from stage, about crafting premium offers, who to reach out to, how to monetize your knowledge in a way that it serves you at the highest level, so that you can also serve others at the highest level in a way that's sustainable, that's not going to max out your calendar and get you exhausted, but so that you could show up your best for your family, for your clients, for yourself, for God. And that's the kind of stuff that we like to talk about during this challenge. So just go to highincomehealthexpert.com or text the number on the screen, 424-243-6624. And in this, we would love to walk you through what you could do to monetize your knowledge online. And every week we release new videos like this on YouTube. So subscribe to our channel so you can get more videos like this. And until next time, remember friends, God doesn't call it qualified. He qualifies it called. Have a great day and God bless.